Hello everyone and welcome back to the GeekWave. This is the low budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. And we are ending 2023 and the awards season for it. We're done. It's over. We have nothing left to say. The Oscars, the Academy Awards were last night at the time of this recording. And we're going to be talking about them. Talking about all the big winners, the big losers, and, sometimes we actually have a good awards show that goes under time. That's pretty impressive. But even before that, we do have a couple pieces of news to talk about. And because we're going to get to the awards very quickly, we're going to run through the news very quick. It's all going to be in one burst, just kind of like a couple of comments here and there about things that are worth talking about that have been announced. So we'll get into that. And then throughout the news, and when that's over, I should say, not throughout the news, when the news is over, let's talk about the award season, the 96th Annual Academy Awards, brought to you by ABC. And stick around afterwards for a special episode of Abbott Elementary that will have Bradley Cooper play himself. All right, here's the news of the past couple of weeks we need to talk about very quickly. First, look at the new Crow film. Looks very weird. Does not give off the vibe of like the original one, which I guess modernizes it up for today's audience. Skarsgård, Bill, that one, he's playing the Crow. Looks creepy and weird. Can't say I'm a big fan of that look, but I don't really care. Comes out in June. Exciting. New looks at the Tron Ares movie, which really bother me. We could spend a little bit of time talking about this, but I don't really want to. All I have to say is taking Tron out of the Tron world and bringing the Tron characters to the real world is a stupid and lame idea, and I have no love or respect for Jared Leto, so I hate that he is headlining this movie that I should be excited about. But what if an AI came to the real world? No, thank you. That sounds really stupid. Not a fan of that. Superman has started filming. It is no longer called Superman Legacy. We got to look at the logo. It's like if you combined the classic logo with the colors and you use the Kingdom Come design. That's what it looks like. Looks really cool. We're filming in Norway in a couple of things there, so I'm excited for that. In the year 2026, the Daniels, the Oscar-winning Daniels of last year, will be releasing their new film to theaters. It'll come out in June of 2026, which means they are finally getting like the coveted summer release, which is awesome. Definitely going the route of Jordan Peele. They are modern auteurs, and we should respect and see what they are going to be doing. That's really cool to see. Love that those guys are going to be getting huge opportunities now. It makes me very excited. Oscar winner herself for, is it original screenplay or adapted screenplay? I can't remember which one she won last year. Sarah Polley. She was supposed to do a Bambi movie for Disney, but they're not doing a Bambi movie now, or she's not doing it at the least. A new guy at the Disney live action department just said, we have to justify these existing, and so far we haven't. And you know what? That dude's right. You haven't. So Sarah Polley is off of Bambi. Good. We don't need that. This isn't really news, but I want to talk about it. Zack Snyder went on Joe Rogan. He's like, more people watched Rebel Moon than they watched Barbie. And that just can't be true. And he kind of like told people that Netflix kind of fudges their numbers by saying no matter what the view is, they double it, saying that 2 people probably watched it. So just lying, just fucking lying. What I'll say to that, Zach, is that I could name all the characters in Barbie before I could name a single character in your stupid movie. I actually can't even think of what one of their names would be. Maybe it's like Empress or something. I don't know. One final piece of news to talk about, and that is another adaptation of a beloved video game getting the movie treatment. Watch Dogs is in active development to be turned into a film, which makes sense. We live in a tech-savvy world. Doing something like that makes perfect sense to me. No problem with that whatsoever. Kind of interested to see what that could look like, to be honest. Hopefully it's something special. But who knows anymore? Probably not. That's all the news we have. Next week, we'll do more news breaks for a longer format, but there you go. That's the news. Let's talk about the Academy Awards. I know I want to. It is the 96th Academy Awards. We are close to the 100th, which is kind of impressive. Even Christopher Nolan himself said we're still like close to 100 years of movie making Imagine being with theater or painting when they were in the first 100 years of their conception. Really cool thing to say by a really cool guy. Yeah, I'm an Oscars guy. I've talked about this numerous times. We've done numerous episodes talking about the award show. It's one of like the first videos I ever did was talking about like the snubs from like the 2017 era. I love the awards. But I'm also well aware of the hypocrisy and like the stupidity that comes from Oscar voters and the Academy at large. I have always said this about the award show and the award circuit. I love just Hollywood jerking itself off and saying that it's special. I think that's great because there are people within Hollywood who can see the bullshit of Hollywood, and there are people in Hollywood that can't see it, and watch them all mix is really interesting. I think this award season and this show in particular, we've seen a lot of the people who have something to say and other people who are just like there for the fun. And that's very interesting. I do want to say this before we get into like the award show and everything. Okay, how do I put this? I'm trying to think of how I want to put this. To celebrate Hollywood and the elitism of Hollywood, it's fine if you love award show and all that stuff, and it's cool. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that like there were, stuff happening overseas in the world as one of the biggest nights in Hollywood took place, and that there were bombings and deaths in Gaza and people being killed, innocent lives being taken, and Palestine is under attack. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. There were few people in the award show who actually said these things. And I think we should say this up top, is that Hollywood has always been very weird about their politics. Before I started filming, I just watched a clip circulating around Twitter or whatever from when Michael Moore won his Oscar and he condemned the war in Iraq and he got booed and people were booing him for speaking out against these horrors. And then at the same award show, Roman Polanski got a standing ovation. So just keep that in mind, when observing and absorbing this content, that these people are weird and they don't really know anything. They lie to themselves about a lot. There were very vocal people at the awards. On the red carpet, we saw a few people. Rami Youssef was a very popular one who was speaking out against the stuff going on in Gaza. Mark Ruffalo, no longer afraid to speak out against Disney or keeping himself in good company with them. He was doing some vocal stuff. You saw some of the people, Swan and the kid from... So it's the hot lawyer and the kid from Anatomy of a Fall. They were wearing Palestine like buttons, not just like the artist for ceasefire buttons, which a lot of people wore, but like what does that mean exactly? So it is important to know that this is like when the Super Bowl was occurring and when a lot of American eyes were glued to the television watching the biggest game of the year. Like what was deemed a safe space by the IDF over in Gaza was bombed and lots of people were killed. So just keep that in mind and try to understand that Hollywood doesn't think about those things. I don't know how to say that. I feel like just sitting here and explaining to you the Oscars, doing that now when there's so much else going on in the world, it doesn't feel right. But the path I have chosen for myself in my career is knowing more about the Oscars, which is kind of weird in of itself when so many things are happening. I will also say this. There was no real outspoken stuff from any of the winners except for Jonathan Glazer and his guys when they won International Feature. They were the only people to really like speak up. And I think it's more like we'll get to it actually when we get to like the documentary and stuff. The people deep in the trenches of Hollywood were definitely the ones that didn't speak up. And I'll say that. Glazer was great. He was like, I am of Jewish faith. I renounce that right now. I refute my own heritage to talk about the atrocities that are being committed to the people of Gaza. And that was really cool to see. It's really cool that he did that and he said those things. And he was the only person to do it on the stage. Yosef, of course, and all that, and Ruffalo and a couple other people just throwing in their support and their words. But you can definitely tell when it comes to like the people in the trenches, they didn't really say much, you know? Whatever. So it's the most glamorous night. Jimmy Kimmel was hosting again. So I think this was a good show. I honestly think, compared to some of the ones that we have covered and some of the shows we've talked about, this was handled and done really damn well. I think this was under time, so we had time to kill to make some stupid riffs. I think everything that won was deserving of its win. I am genuinely impressed with how this show was handled. A couple of misfires that didn't really go anywhere. I don't like that we had like a moment to celebrate stunt choreography, but we didn't give them, the actual nomination or category. That's very weird. It's like, yeah, we'll get there. We just introduced like casting, achievement in casting, so that's its own thing. I don't really like how they handled the in memoriam, where it was, we're going to show selective people, we're going to move to like a million different screens throughout it, and then because we run out of time, we're just going to put a bunch of names on a list. And you're like, what? You say we couldn't do like an extra 2 minutes with that time we had to show other people? That was really insane to me. There was a couple of jokes directed to RDJ where I thought those were kind of like, we don't need to do this. We don't need to hold on to this for too long. It's not really getting anywhere, not really accomplishing anything. And you could tell that he was okay with the jokes, but he'd rather them not be said. Aside from those things, and I think like the lack of awareness of like events, even a couple years ago, we spent more time talking about the stuff with Ukraine, but now, I don't know. It's very complicated. It's not even complicated. It's just, you know what Hollywood is, and we can love all aspects of Hollywood, but we also should call out the hypocrisy and the blatant disregard that they have for things that don't involve themselves. So let's just keep that in mind. It's very weird. Under budget, not under budget, under time, we ran short, and Kimmel did good. Kimmel played it really safe this year. He really went in not trying to offend anybody except for Robert Downey Jr. by bringing up cocaine. Aside from that, Kimmel really didn't go for the jugular at any single point. I don't think anybody really went for the jugular at any point. I don't think there was like a bad like crop of people hosting. There was some weird issues where like the microphone stand got hit a bunch and it sounded like the audio was slightly off, just in terms of like what was being picked up by the speakers. My favorite presenters were probably Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito. I think they crushed it. They were incredibly fun and interesting. Kate McKinnon and America Ferrera did really good, getting Spielberg to do some fun jokes in there. That's really cool to see. John Mulaney just being like, sounds cool. Anyways, Field of Dreams is a really weird movie. That was really cool to see too. I think they did great. And if anything, Mulaney should host next year. I know I'm not the first person to say that, but Mulaney should host next year. He did incredible. And he's not a guy intimidated by the stage. Kimmel still feels like he's the outsider, which is kind of like why he works well for this. He just constantly wants to present himself as like the self-deprecating, I'm not really in the circle, but you're kind of deep in the trenches now. You've been doing this job for a long time. You're like the modern Crystal, dude. You've been doing this for a while. So that's fine. No real like atrocities in terms of like jokes or any of that stuff. John Cena gets naked, so that's kind of fun. He was really naked too, if you look at some other photos. None of these songs or performances were truly bad. Do I love the song I'm Just Ken? I don't. But can I sit here and tell you that Gosling and Slash put on a good performance that even Martin Scorsese was loving? Yes, I can. I can tell you that for true. This was pretty interesting. I've been watching the Oscars religiously since I was probably, I want to say 14, so about 11 years, 12 years now. I think this is the best show I've watched because it kind of like got straight to the point. We did it quick. Everybody played their part well, and nothing bad happened, and there was no like major upsets and winners. There's a couple major upsets and winners, but the thing is, like, the performance that won or the category that won, they're all deserving. So let's go through who won what award. I'm going through the Oscars.org website. So that's where I'm getting the information. So it's not going to be in order of like what was presented. It is going to be in order of what they have on their website. So that's its own, fun thing. Starting with actor in a leading role, the clear winner was Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and he did win. And this brings up the first other thing I want to talk about. We did not get any clips from the movies this year. There was no clips from the film. We had 5 actors come on stage to talk about each individual actor that was nominated, and Cillian happened to win. No clips from Oppenheimer for him to win. A deserving win. A deserving win. I have nothing else to say about this. He was my pick to win this year as well. He's what I picked for my personal award show. It's such a good performance. And the thing is, like, this was a really stacked category. I would be okay with any of these guys winning. The more I think about Bradley Cooper, the more I just kind of want him to get that win. But at the end of the day, he was on Abbott Elementary, so I can't be too mad at him for losing. And when it comes to supporting actor, we have Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, which felt like a career achievement moment. It's so weird. And Robert Downey Jr., it's such like a weird win for him because it comes off of like, this guy needs a career renaissance. He needs to come back. But his career renaissance is coming in the form of no longer being in the highest grossing and most beloved film franchise of all time. It's so weird that he gets his nomination for Chaplin, has his struggles, he comes back, gets the nomination for Tropic Thunder, and he suddenly becomes like Tony Stark overnight. He is the guy of all guys. He's the most beloved actor in the biggest franchise in the world. He gets an actual proper send-off in the franchise, and suddenly everyone's like, well, you've been trapped in the Marvel bubble for too long. You can't actually be a good actor. So he needs to do this kind of a movie. It's so bizarre. It's like he wasn't perceived as like a real actor for doing Iron Man, but you're like, his Iron Man work is really good. He's really good as Iron Man. He's really good as Louis Strauss too, and this is such a deserving win. Like, it's incredible. He deserved that. I just find it so fascinating how people perceive him and his career in particular. Where like, he needs to come back and prove he's an actor. Like, he led the most highest grossing franchise of all time. I don't think he has to prove anything to anybody. And this just proves it. I love it. I loved his speech. I loved everything about what he did. Actress in a leading role may be the most controversial because the winner is Emma Stone for Poor Things, which is very interesting. I personally picked Emma Stone for my award show. Even me picking it, I felt like, is this the right thing to do? And I cannot be upset by Emma Stone winning because her performance is truly revolutionary and it's in its own level of interest. And everybody went in thinking Lily Gladstone was going to get it. The thing I think we should point out is Gladstone and Stone have no bitterness between each other. They love to support each other. You could see the look on Emma Stone's face when she's like, oh shit, I didn't win? Lily didn't win? What are we doing? It's like, she's just like, are you kidding me? I won? That's weird. Another year where Martin Scorsese walks away with 0 wins for his 10-time nominated movie, which it's crazy. So here's what I'll say. Whatever his next movie is, I know it's going to be good and interesting if he does make another movie, like his weird, like, 80-minute Jesus Christ film. It needs to win. He should win. The career Oscar should go to Scorsese now. Okay? That's what we should do. Emma Stone, I do like the win. I'm surprised it wasn't Gladstone, but that opens up its own hypocrisy thing within the confines of the Oscars, where they don't really like to see a woman of color win in leading role, which sucks, but that's true. Actress in a supporting role, it went to the sweep of Devon Joy Randolph, the most deserving win. Amazing to see her get that. Truly incredible. I love to see that. I think that performance is kind of like the silent performance of the picture that really makes it stand together and be something special. So that's really cool. Animated feature film goes to The Boy and the Heron. Hell yeah. That's the one I wanted to see win. It's the only one I wanted to see win. I like all of these movies. I just watched Robot Dreams a couple weeks ago. My God, what a fun film. I love that one so much. But Miyazaki just truly made a masterpiece here. He was not in attendance, probably because last time he wasn't in attendance, it was to boycott the stuff going on with the certain war overseas. And there's certain stuff that the Oscars are not talking about that he also feels like he shouldn't support them. So The Boy and the Heron, a deserving win. Amazing. There were a couple of tweets that came out from some people that worked on Across the Spider-Verse. I believe it was Phil Lord who said, well, if you're going to lose, it might as well be to the best. My man, you already won for your Spider-Verse movie. Relax. Shamik Moore made like a tweet where he wanted to say robbed, but he said robed because he doesn't know how to spell properly. Shamik really proving that he's a weird guy. I don't know. Said about him. Okay, cinematography. That went to Oppenheimer's Hoyte van Hoytema, or Hotima. Incredible win. An incredible win. I love that Oppenheimer gets all the technical stuff. It deserved it. Costume design, a controversial one maybe, went to Poor Things, which I really like. I really like that win. I was not putting it. I think I gave costume design to Barbie for what I did, which is what I personally thought was going to win. But no, Poor Things is a deserving win for that category too. And that brings us to directing. And directing, this is where Spielberg came on stage. And for a brief moment, I was like, oh, they brought Spielberg out? Does that mean in honor of 30 years since Schindler's List, we're going to give it to Glazer for the Zone of Interest? I really thought that for a minute. And then I was like, wait, maybe he's going to give it to his buddy Marty like he did last time when he won The Departed. And I was like, oh, no, it's Christopher Nolan. It's the passing of the baton to the next era and next generation. That's what it is. Christopher Nolan wins his first Oscar in directing for directing what might be one of the most interesting and cool movies of the year or of all time. It's amazing. An amazing film. I love that. Good for him. It's earned. And he wins 2 Oscars tonight, which is cool to see. Great. Documentary feature film. This is kind of coming up to what I also wanted to talk about. The winner was 20 Days in Mariupol, which you're like, yep, this is a good win. That is a movie that deserves to win. And you heard the creators come on stage and be like, I wish we didn't have to make this film. Like, I would happily return everything here if it meant Russia didn't invade my fucking country. And I'm like, you go off, King. And you can hear how the audience is like, yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. And then when Glazer says something, they're just like, oh, you know? It's, yeah. But that is a deserving win. A very, very poignant movie worth watching and talking about. And I pretty much, I've seen most of the majority of documentary feature film here now. They're not bad. Like, I do like this category. I think they're all interesting. Documentary short film, the winner went to The Last Repair Shop, which is great. Let's get instruments in the hands of people that need them. That's a cool thing that we should do. I say we do it. Film editing went to Jennifer LeMay for Oppenheimer, which you're like, hell yeah, that is a very deserving win. And this was a great category. Personally, I would go to Oppenheimer, but man, Thelma Schoonmaker, she did great work on Killers. I don't know. Anatomy of a Fall was a great edited film, but clearly it was going to be Oppenheimer. Just a very deserving, interesting win. That definitely was worth it. International feature film, we kind of already talked about it. The Zone of Interest. I have problems when it comes to like a movie where the primarily like country is English wins the international feature film. But I can't argue with The Zone of Interest being one of those poignant and fascinatingly destructive movies that should be talked about. I have no problem with this winning. I think it is important it won so Glazer could get on stage and just be like, guys, there is some bad shit going on that is echoing this film I made. And he's like, this film is not just about the past, but it's about our present. And everyone's like, whoa, 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 hold on. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this win. I would prefer to see any of the other films win as well because they're not like United Kingdom entry. Italy, Japan, Spain, and Germany. Would be nice to see something else get in there. I don't know. Hair and makeup, the award goes to Poor Things, Nadia Stacey, Mark Coulier, and Josh Weston. Which is interesting. This is one where I was like, I think this could go to Maestro. I feel like this could have been Maestro's win. But all of like these more like practical wins went to Poor Things, which is where like I think like it split the difference between what that could be, what Killers was. I don't know. A lot of these ones could have went to like Barbie and stuff, but I feel like the Academy did not take Barbie seriously, which is a problem. It does not matter too much, but you can see how a bunch of like 70-year-old men who are like, I'm not watching a fucking Barbie movie would be like, I'll see this hot lady have sex and stuff. I guess that could be like the other criticism I could say about the Jimmy Kimmel monologues and stuff. It's the classic affair of like, this movie's too long. Animated movies are for kids. This movie's only about sex? Yeah, that was exhausting and completely unnecessary to anything going on. But I can't be mad at him for taking the easy route just because it beats the alternative of like isolating everybody and doing like a Joe Coy thing where you're like not funny to anybody. I don't know. So cool, Poor Things won that category. I think that is an earned victory. Original score for music, of course, it went to Ludwig Göransson for his work in Oppenheimer. That's the one I would pick out of this list, honestly. I don't think there's a bad score in this list except for maybe Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I think that's just kind of like trite and not that interesting. But maybe Robbie Robertson getting like the win would have been cool to see. I would have liked it. I don't know. I have nothing bad to say about this win. Ludwig is becoming like this generation's Hans Zimmer or John Williams, where you could just see him making a score for anything, and it gets the nom, which is fine. I think a lot of what he's done is earned, and the Oppenheimer score is just devastating, and he even spoke like it was Christopher Nolan's idea to use like the violin, and when we had like that image in our head, suddenly like this whole thing just started to make so much more sense, and you're like, that's awesome. Original song, everybody got to do their performance. We had Becky G do the song from Flamin' Hot from Diane Warren, who a classic person who just loses all the time. But no, like this is the only win that Barbie scoops up, and it is of course from Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell. Billie Eilish now the youngest person in Oscar history to win 2 Oscars. Let this sink in that she has more Oscars than Martin Scorsese. That's crazy. That is crazy. I'm very surprised by that. Man, oh man, eh? But no, like, out of this list, it is the one I'd like to see win. Maybe A Song for My People from Killers of the Flower Moon would be, like, really interesting to see win. I loved that performance when they did that. It was probably my favorite one of the bunch. I really feel nothing for the Barbies song, like I'm Just Ken. It means nothing to me. I'm so glad that didn't win. I don't care that you can bring out Slash Ryan Gosling. Means nothing to me. I'm kind of over like the Barbenheimer jokes and stuff. So when you and Emily Blunt came out and did like our movies are good, but we also hate each other, blah, 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 I was over that. That meant nothing to me. Sick of you. Stop it. Best Picture, which I loved the way they announced Best Picture this year. Somebody like woke up Al Pacino, who was sleeping at the back of the stage, and they just said, go on stage and read this envelope. And Al Pacino stumbles on stage and he's like, okay, I'm here to talk about Best Picture. To do that, I'm going to have to open this envelope. So I'm going to open this envelope, and he's like, okay, what do we got? Well, my eyes see Oppenheimer. And everyone's like, huh? Oh, Oppenheimer. And you're like, yes. Good for you, Al Pacino. You clearly did not give a single fuck about any of the stuff going on here, and we respect you for it. I mean, just to show up, no discernible interest in a thing going on, and just be like, my eyes see Oppenheimer. It's funny. I love that. So Oppenheimer, yeah, it's so rare that like a Best Picture winner actually is one of the highest grossing films of the year. But that is what we had in this case because this movie translates so well to everybody. And it won. Christopher Nolan received 2 Oscars. Emma Thomas got an Oscar as well. Charles Roven. It's awesome. We're actually really happy for this. It makes us all happy. It's a deserved win. It needed to win. No win for Margot Robbie or Greta Gerwig, though. But whatever. They'll always have their next projects. It will not be the last time we see Margot Robbie or Greta Gerwig at the Academy Awards. Production design. This one went to Poor Things, which is kind of interesting. But I cannot deny that. Those were some beautiful sets and designs. It's truly insane how that looked. I love all the nominees here, too. I think any of them would have been a good win. Poor Things getting all like the practical ones, like the makeup and the costume and production. Those are cool. I'm glad it won those. Then you could give cinematography and editing and score to Oppenheimer. That's really cool. Only 3 films this year won multiple awards. Oppenheimer won 7, Poor Things won 4, and The Zone of Interest won 2, which we'll get to. Animated short film went to War is Over, inspired by the music of John and Yoko. I can guarantee you that this one won because people knew the name John and Yoko, and very few members of the Academy probably saw these ones. But that's not to discredit War is Over. It's a really interesting film. Live action short film. This went to The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, giving Wes Anderson his first ever Oscar win. He was not in attendance to pick up the award, and that's kind of insane. It's kind of cool that Wes Anderson and Christopher Nolan won their first Oscars in the same year, in like the same era, and I love both of their movies this year. Asteroid City, destructively not in any of the categories this year, nominated for nothing, but he won for the Roald Dahl thing, which is weird if you think about it. But whatever. Sound, best sound, went to The Zone of Interest, which was a really interesting win. And I think that movie, fundamentally more than a lot of these other ones, relies on its sound. I would have loved an Oppenheimer or Maestro win, but The Zone of Interest is a movie that is all about its sound. The sound is the most important aspect of that film. That is why it deserves to win. I like that a lot, actually. That makes me happy. Well, that actually got that win. That movie, I don't love it as much as some other people have, but to deny either of its wins, I would be kidding myself. They are both very deserved and very interesting wins. Best visual effects, folks. This was the category a lot of eyes were on because none of us could predict where it was going to go. At the end of the day, the winner was Godzilla -1, which was awesome to see. The crew came out with their cool Godzilla heels and their little Godzilla toys. They painted one of gold. And everyone, I think it was Yamazaki came out and he talked like, I didn't think I would be here. I grew up watching the films of a lot of these people. And now just to have this in my hands, I feel like I'm Rocky Balboa and I beat all the odds. And it was it was so beautiful to see everyone involved there get up on stage for that win. I love it. Let's get these people proper conditions where their visual effects studios can actually function under proper settings. Now I know the reason that Godzilla -1 came under budget for a lot of like its effects was because Yamazaki did a lot of like the effects himself because that was his background, so he's just like, I'll just do it for no extra money. And that's part of why it was so cheap. But this guy has clearly said he loves to make movies, so let's let him make a movie over here. Or let's just let him build up a cool career. This guy seems awesome. I love this win because it definitely feels like the Rocky Balboa thing is a great analogy. Like the outsiders coming in, destroying the tent poles of this country. Mission Impossible, Napoleon, Guardians, and The Creator all lose to like this outsider $15 million Godzilla film. Godzilla winning her first Oscar as well. We love to see it. We love to see it. It makes us so happy. So we have a couple more categories to talk about, which are the adapted and original screenplay, which these ones, I think these were my picks anyways. I love that these win. I don't hate a single thing that won. And these are just like two of my favorite wins. So adapted screenplay went to Cord Jefferson for American Fiction. And Cord's speech was also really good. He was like to Hollywood, instead of making one $200 million movie, why not make like 10, $20 million movies or like $24 million movies? And I'm like, you're so fucking right, Cord. Why not do those things? I knew from the beginning, as soon as they put Barbie into adapted, it was going to cancel itself out with Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. So Cord was going to easily sneak in there and get the adapted screenplay nomination. Easily get that win. An original screenplay that went to Anatomy of a Fall, Justine Triet and Arthur Harari. My pick for the best screenplay of the year. I'm so happy this one won. I love this. I love all of the nominations in this category as well. It would have been cool to see Cooper get his nomination here, or his win here, I should say. But I don't hate any of this. I love it all. I think this was a good year. Overall, I think everybody that won was deserving. I don't think there is any controversy for anything that happened. I am impressed. I am truly impressed with everything we saw. And that's really cool. It was a good year. A good Oscar ceremony, minus the things where people just didn't talk about, like the genocide taking place. You know, that it's something Hollywood is always going to overlook in favor of, like, what if The Rock and Bad Bunny were out here? And he's like, see, he's not a bad bunny. Blah, blah, blah. Boop-de-boop, right? You know how it goes. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, right? But no, it was good. We had fun. It was a good show. And if you haven't checked it out, maybe do so. It could be kind of interesting. I don't know. I guess you don't have to watch it, but whatever. It's been fun. And I like the show, and I like the wins. Oppenheimer with 7, Poor Things with 4, and then The Zone of Interest with 2. So those are the multiple wins. Billie Eilish gets another win. A lot of first-time winners. It's impressive. It's awesome. We are very happy with it. So that's the Oscars this year. We'll be back next year to talk more, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled Geek Waves as the weeks go on. But until then, thank you all for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you want to find me somewhere else, you could check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Happy awards season being over. Let's jump into 2024 with some new movies to talk about. Good luck.